Hey guys, hope everyone out there is having a great day or evening. I realize that I haven't done a video in quite a while. That's because I've been working on a few other things lately. But today, what I thought I would talk about is personal space. And I'll probably put this in I guess I'll put this in the culture playlist. But one thing that I wanted to start off by saying is that, and maybe I've mentioned this before, but our culture affects us deeply and profoundly, and it often does so in ways that we do not realize until we move somewhere else. You don't realize how American you are until you move somewhere else where everyone's doing things differently, and then you recognize how growing up in your country has affected many of your behaviors and attitudes. And so, one of the things that I've noticed living in the Philippines, and I was prepared for this through a mission when I was in training to be a missionary and all that, is the idea of personal space can differ a lot depending on where you live. And for example, me being a typical American, and most of you who are Westerners in general probably have this same attitude or comfort level. What I'm saying is, most of us have this idea of, if you think about your personal space, if you were to put one arm out, okay, you put an arm out. I'll see if I can get my hand in the well. Anyway, you get the idea. You put your arm out. That's kind of a buffer zone for you, generally speaking. In other words, that is the typical length, the typical distance that you expect people to keep from you, especially strangers. And if someone were to walk into that space, you would feel uncomfortable, or that someone's kind of invading on your invisible turf or something like that. I mean, think about if someone just at Walmart or the store, grocery store, wherever, started talking to you and got up within about a foot. That would probably make you uncomfortable, especially if they had bad breath. So in the Philippines, one thing you're going to find is that the the concept of personal space can be different, and in many cases, it's just the physical environment or situation that dictates you not being allowed to have that personal space. So I'm thinking about especially public transportation. If you think about a jeepney, they're going to cram as many people in there as closely as possible. I've ridden the LRT and the MRT in Manila and just been absolutely packed in there with other people. And even there's a mode of transportation we call an FX. It's basically an SUV. Same thing, you're just packed in there with other people. And I got used to it. But of course, see, the Filipinos, they were already used to that. So there are circumstances like that that you're going to find people are definitely up in your personal space. And in many cases, it's not their choice. It is just the circumstance. It's just the situation that you're in. And I don't know that there's anything that you can really do about that. It's just that it's something that I wanted to let you be aware of. Another thing that comes to mind is that friends probably sit a lot closer together. Like if you are talking to a barcada, a group of friends. I remember in student ministry, again, it's different versus here, people would at least be a little bit spaced out, but they're just all kind of cramped in there together. Or if people would, I remember, here's another example I can give you. I remember this kind of starkly. The This just came to mind. The apartment that I had in Manila, the living room and the dining room were kind of two separate rooms, I guess you could say. I mean, they were joined together, but if you can imagine two squares with kind of the corner joining together, and that's the opening in between. That's the way my living room and dining room were set up. And I remember one time I had a pretty good sized group of students over, and it was funny because they all crammed together in one of those squares, even though the dining room was completely empty. And I think that's where I sat. So because being the American, I like a little more space, a little more breathing room. But they all just jammed in there, and because to them being together and in enjoying each other's company and hanging out and feeling that closeness, that was more important to them than having a little personal space. So, like I said, it's just something to be aware of. It's something that you're going to notice, and it's something that you are going to have to adapt to. Now, you never completely change who you are culturally, I don't think. So, I'm not saying that you'll get used to it to the point that you're just like a Filipino with this. For me, I could ride the jeepneys, I could ride the van, I could do whatever. But then when I got to my apartment, I enjoyed having having my space again. So, but like I said, it's just something that you have to be aware of, especially when you're traveling, when you're just doing your day-to-day stuff, interacting with people. Their idea of personal space and what they're comfortable with is going to be different from yours, and as long as you're aware of it and can adapt to it, you'll get along just fine. So anyway, I hope that little cultural insight helps you.